Good afternoon or good morning, whatever the situation may be. My name is Keith Sessions. I'm the Executive Director of the AGSC STARS program. And today I wanted to go through a presentation and record it so I could send it out to the members of the Area 1 and 2 Academic Committee. This presentation is basically the initial training session I did on April 9th and 10th through a WebEx with a number of the members of the committee. Some of those were not able to participate, and so I wanted to do this so that those that weren't able to participate could watch, listen, and then contact me if they had questions. And I also wanted to do it to give those that did participate a backup copy of the meeting and the presentation so that they could watch it whenever they needed to find out more about what the Area 1 and Academic 2 Academic Committee is about. So we'll go ahead and get started and try to get done as quickly as we can. Okay, so on your screen you should be able to see a copy of it says welcome, and I just want to thank you for taking time to learn more about this committee and why it's important. I also want to thank you for being willing to serve on this committee. And on the day I did the presentation, I started at 2, so I was trying to end it in an hour. Hopefully it won't take me that long to go through it here for you on this recording. I'm going to share this PowerPoint in an email, just the slides, and then I'll also share this recording or link to this recording through email as well. For this training, I want to try to cover these topics: history and background. What is AGSC? What is STARS? What are STARS transfer guide? What are academic committees? Why are you on this committee? And some things related to being on the committee. And then after that, where are we going to go after this meeting? The importance of your work. And then if you have questions or comments after watching this video, you can contact me and I'll have that contact information at the end of the presentation. Many of you may or may not be familiar with what was going on in Alabama in the late 80s and early 90s in regards to transferring from institution to institution. As with the many states across the United States, many students who were attending community colleges in Alabama had to kind of transfer at their own risk. In other words, they would take courses at one community college, and then if they weren't sure exactly where they were going to transfer or what major they were going to major in, often they would be confused, and it was kind of a transfer at your own risk scenario. Many students transferring during these years lost credits when they transferred, which resulted in wasting of time and money on those courses that wouldn't transfer. And as a result, many of these students and their parents began to complain, and the only people they could complain to was our state legislators. And so the legislators heard the complaints, and in 1994 they passed Act 94-202. You can find that link or that document on our website by clicking this little icon. And for the rest of the presentation, anytime you see this little icon, you can click on it, and it should hopefully bring you up into our web pages and show you the document or the pages that kind of relate to what we're talking about. So that kind of gives you an idea of the legislation. If you want to read it on your own time, you can. But that was passed in 1994. And it basically created what we call the AGSC, which is the Articulation and General Studies Committee for the state of Alabama, and expanded STARS, which is the statewide transfer articulation reporting system. The AGSC is a 10-member state committee that was appointed by the legislation to address this loss of transfer credit issue. They were charged or given the charge to do a few things, but the main thing was to develop a transfer agreement that two-year college students could use that would protect them when they transferred to the four-year institutions in Alabama, and then to develop an agreement or a contract to go along with that that would also kind of give teeth to the contract and give them some assurity or insurance that what they're taking at the two-year college would indeed transfer and count toward their degree. They were given about a 4-year timetable from the time the legislation was passed in '94 to have this program pretty much implemented across the state. From that point forward, the committee still meets regularly. About every semester, we have at least one meeting to monitor and improve the program and to resolve any issues or problems that arise. The STARS office, to kind of give you some background, is located on the campus of Troy. So my office is here on Troy University's campus. However, we work with all the 2- and 4-year colleges. The reason you may ask why it's on Troy's campus is in the late 80s and early 90s, Troy had already set up a computerized advising system. This was prior to the internet, so they used a mainframe and a modem hookup where students at their feeder colleges, such as Enterprise State, LBW, Wallace, Dothan, Chattahoochee Valley, some of those students could actually say, hey, I want to go to Troy, and this is what I want to major in, and then they would get what's called a Troy University transfer guide. And so this worked well for Troy. And so when the legislation was passed, instead of reinventing the wheel, the state basically took over the program and the funding of the program. They kept the program office on the campus of Troy, and they basically just began to fund the program through 8 line items. So we are a grant and contract program. We are on the campus of Troy University, but we do work with all the 2- and 4-year colleges equally and try to make sure transfer works, with all of them and not just through Troy. So we do handle the day-to-day operations, or my office does, of the AGSC. The AGSC, as I said, is a 10-member committee that meets periodically. So they set policy and we implement that policy. And then from that, we basically maintain a website through which students obtain what are called transfer guides. Real quickly, the transfer guide is what the 2-year college student obtains that protects them. It tells them what to take at the community college that they're attending and how to take those courses. And it basically gives them 60 to 64 hours of coursework that they can take at the community college. And then it protects that amount of work that they've taken when they actually transfer to one of the 4-year colleges in the state. Again, this is all available through our website, and I won't go through it in detail. If you have time, you might want to click on, I would suggest first just going through unofficially and look at different guides and how they're laid out. And then if you want to, you can actually pretend to be a student, get an official guide, kind of see how that works. But you're basically going to get the same information. This one just has the contract student's name and information and makes the guide actually official when it's obtained. This one's just kind of like looking around and being able to review our website. So when you have time, check those out, and you can kind of see how this is generated and what the student gets when they get a transfer guide. Since we started on the web in September of 1998, we've had over 1.3 million guides have been obtained through our website. So that's a big number. And for each of those students, if we just prevented them from losing one course of credit, that's a lot of money, a lot of time that we've saved those students. So we're proud of that number. And that number continues to grow about a rate of about 65,000 to 75,000 a year is what we're kind of seeing right now with trends of use of our system. Each of the guides, if you look one up, will have 5 areas, similar to many of your catalogs and your general studies has 5 areas. All of that kind of evolved from the work of this committee over the years, and so that's where Area 1 came in, Written Comp 1 and 2. Fine Arts, Humanities, 12 hours is Area 2. Area 3 is Math and Natural Sciences, 11 to 12 hours. Area 4 is History and Social Sciences, 12 hours. That gets you to about 40 to 42 hours of work. And then Area 5 is kind of a pre-professional major elective, just depends on what the major is for the student. I put boxes around 1 and 2 primarily because these will be the areas that your committee or this committee will be primarily focusing on. And then you will at times have some say in what's in Area 5. For instance, your committee will decide what an English major needs to take, an art history major needs to take, any major that falls within your discipline that's not covered by another committee or group, you would have some say in what appears on those transfer guides for students. We'll get into more of that in just a minute. In the early years of the AGSC STARS program, the members of the Articulation General Studies all agreed that the foundation of the program had to rest with the faculty members across the state who serve as experts in their chosen academic fields. As a result, the AGSC basically set out to establish different academic committees that would take on the role of reviewing transfer courses, making recommendations to the AGSC regarding course approvals and template ratifications. We'll talk more about these in a minute. Again, this little link will take you to a page that tells you more about the academic committees and history and the importance, and then there's links to the different committees. You would click here and then get to Area 1 and 2, which is the page we're going to talk more about in just a minute, but this is for the Area 1 and 2 academic committee. So basically, the academic committees are the cornerstone or foundation of this entire process. Now, from in the early years, just up until 2018, we actually had 38 committees, and they were broken into two different types. General Studies academic committees, which are basically dealing with areas 1 through 4, and then pre-professional, professional academic committees, which are committees such as engineering, nursing, criminal justice, computer science, those type of programs. The General Studies academic committees, there were actually 21 different committees, ranging from English, history, art and art history, biology, chemistry, and so forth. And those committees were made up of 367 faculty members. So our office had to try to manage 21 different General Studies academic committees with different chairs and all these different faculty members. At the same time, we also managed, and still do, 17 professional academic committees, which is compiled of over 175 faculty members. If you do the math, it's 38 committees with over 500 faculty members that we're trying to manage and monitor and keep active, and it just really is about impossible to do. It's impossible to manage this many people, this many groups, this many committees effectively. So about a year and a half ago, we had some consulting done, and one of the things that they said is we need to look for ways to improve the work of the committees, maybe decrease the number of committees. And so I thought about, as the director, what we needed to do to maybe start this process to improve and make this whole thing work a little bit better. As for right now, the AGSC and MOS has decided to maintain the PACs as they are, not change anything currently with those groups. So we'll continue to have 17 of those committees, and they'll continue to work on their particular disciplines. Now, the big changes did come in the area of GSACs, which are General Studies Academic Committees. As you recall, we had 21 with over 300 faculty members listed on those committees. And so what I decided might work best is, instead of having each committee for each different discipline area, as you see here, there's the different 21 different areas. These were all actually committees that we had at one point. So we had a history, economics, geography, communication studies, political science. And if you put all those down into a funnel and funnel them and then break them out by their areas that they kind of naturally fall under, that is where I came up with the Area 1 and 2 committee, Area 3 committee, and Area 4 committee. And so you all are right here. And you're on the Area 1 and 2 English, Humanities, and Fine Arts Academic Committee, which is 28 members. 14 of your members are 4-year institution reps. 14 of the members are 2-year reps, and that's the same across the board. So you may be asking yourself, how did I get on this committee? Why I'm on this committee? Well, if you're a 4-year member, you were selected by your Chief Academic Officer. We asked the Council of Chief Academic Officers to nominate members from the various four-year schools. In this case, in areas 1 and 2, in those disciplines, someone that had a kind of a broad knowledge of the disciplines that fall in those areas that would be willing to serve. And so you were selected by your provost or academic president or vice president or whoever's kind of over your academics of your institution. And then the community college reps were selected by the Alabama Community College System Office, or nominated, and then the AGSC approved your nominations. So being on this committee, you're considered to be an expert in the discipline area for your institution. If you might be aware, you may not, but this is how the committees were initially created. The Council of Chief Academic Officers appointed the 14 four-year members. The Community College System Office appointed the 14 two-year members. Each member is to serve a 3-year term. And what we're going to do with this first group of members is we're going to stagger the terms 1, 2, and 3 year so that a new third rotates on each year, and we're not having to re-educate a new committee every 3 years. So we keep some continuity on the committee. Each committee will elect a chair and a vice chair. We like to see one of those people be a 4-year rep and one be a 2. So whenever the chair is a 4-year person, we would like the vice chair to be a 2-year rep and vice versa. And we're going to ask those chairs and vice chairs to serve 3-year terms. This way they have some time to kind of be in charge and to oversee the work of their group before their term runs out. The AGSC stated that the members must have experience teaching in at least one of the fields of English, humanities, or fine arts, and that the members should also have some broad knowledge of all 3 discipline areas, English, humanities, and fine arts. The member could be a college dean or department head, but is not a requirement. And then recommendations of course approvals, template ratifications from the committee that go forward to the AGSC require 15 yes votes to move the item forward to the AGSC for final approval or ratification. And the members of this committee may vote by written proxy or by representative, or written representative. So the reason we picked 15 is if you have 14 2-year and 14 4-year members, anything that goes before the AGSC would have to garner the votes, a yes vote of all 14 of either 4-year or 2-year, and then 1 from the other side. In most cases, most of these courses are pretty cut and dry as to whether or not they're approved or general studies in nature. And so most time we don't have a vote that's around the 14s, but we may have I'm looking to see maybe if a course comes through that 25 people say yes and 3 people said no, or even maybe 25 said yes, 3 people didn't vote. So anyway, it would take 15 for that course to move forward in the process. The Area 1 Area 2 Academic Committee 4-year members are as follows, and I'm not going to read these to you, but they're on the web page, which is linked here again up in this corner. And as you see, these are the email addresses for our committee members for the 4 years. And these terms I just randomly put in, starting with December 31st, 2020, then 2021, 2022, 2020, 21, 22, and all the way down. And that way it kind of staggers these initial terms. Once your term ends, if you don't fulfill a full 3-year term, you do have the option to serve out another 3-year term. If you're like on a 1-year term or a 2-year term, you will have an option to continue, or you could elect to not continue. So if you have a problem with these terms and the way they're set, please let me know, and I will try to work with you to fix them or change or swap with someone else. As for the 2-year members, you see them here. And again, the terms are staggered. And again, if the 2-year members have problems, let me know, and we'll try to work something out where you can swap term ends with someone else. The next thing we're going to work on over the next week or 2 is to elect a chair and a vice chair. And so what I will try to do is send out a nomination or election form where you can nominate and elect someone from both the 4-year and 2-year to serve as our chair for the next 3 years. So think about those on the committee that you know or you work with maybe, and see if you'd like to nominate one of them for one of these positions. And if you're interested in serving on one of these roles, let me know by email, either after this presentation or when I send out the request that you'd be interested in serving. Also, I didn't put it on the slide, but if you are not interested in being chair or vice chair and you just don't have time or don't think that's something you want to take on, you can also let me know. So if you get nominated, I will make sure you don't get put on the ballot when we do our election coming up. I'm not going to go over in a lot of detail these roles and responsibilities, because what I'm planning to do is have some additional training and maybe just take on pretty much these roles and responsibilities in future training so we can spend more time working on them. But basically, what you're going to be responsible for is to review and make recommendations for courses and templates, and we'll talk about templates more later. But in the following areas, I won't read those to you, but these are the areas that basically tend to fall in areas 1 and 2 of our system. So you'll kind of be overseeing these particular discipline areas. All right, I'm sorry I had a little bit of delay in my computer or something, so should be recording again. We're going to try to meet at least once a year. I would consider these online meetings as meetings, so we'll count these. But also, I like to possibly in the fall, maybe on a Friday, when everybody's not as busy and doesn't have as many classes, have a face-to-face meeting somewhere, maybe in a centrally located area, where we can do some of our work and meet each other rather than just doing everything on the computer. Whether or not I can get that worked out, we'll see, but I'm going to try to make that happen. Number 3, ongoing review and recommendation for approval or disapproval of new courses from the 2-year and 4-year institutions. Ongoing review of revised courses proposed by institutions as general studies courses in the discipline. Review previously approved courses under the following conditions: where there is significant change in the course, where the institution wishes a course to be considered for maybe another area, or when the AGSC deems it appropriate to review a course again. And then we're going to look at the guidelines, specific guidelines that you're to use when you review courses for your discipline, and we'll try to do that once a year. And if you want to make any changes in those, you can. It would require a vote to make changes of 15 or more to make those changes in the guidelines that are currently set. But there's nothing that keeps the committee from changing some of those guidelines. Now, if you change the guidelines, we probably have to go back and review courses again to make sure they all fit under the new guidelines. So just keep that in mind. And then 7, review discipline templates and development of new discipline templates is necessary. Again, I'll have a full session on templates, review, and process of how we manage templates. Template basically is the skeleton of the transfer guide. And so your committee would set forth a template for, let's say, English or art history or something like that, for major in public speaking or whatever it is. If it falls under your discipline, you would set forth the template, which is many of them have already been established. So you basically review what's out there and then make any changes that you deem necessary. And then we go in and change not only the template but update the transfer guide. There's a web page that I've created that has this information listed on the left. But if you click this link up here or click any of these things, it should pop up your web page for the Area 1, Area 2 Academic Committee. This first area will kind of be a working things to do list. Things are coming up, things that we're working on. Then here's your listing of your members. If you click email all members here, it should populate an email in your email browser or window, and that way you can send an email to everybody on this list. We'll keep that updated. I've gone over this, and we've kind of touched some on these roles and responsibilities, and then these are the guidelines. So if a course comes in literature, then it must, these are the kind of guidelines that have been previously set for courses in literature to be considered general studies, that type courses. As you can see, these are your most common and seem to be pretty appropriate for general studies, whereas these would be less appropriate for general studies and may be more appropriate for a major in literature, English, or whatever. So you're probably not going to see these courses get approved where you will see these courses get approved. But anyway, these are all listed here, and you can click and go see what's required. But those are called general studies, and we'll continue to add to this web page as needed for information for each of you to be able to access and know what's going on. I'm not going to take a lot of time to go over all this. We'll probably spend some future training sessions talking about courses, approval of courses, what that means when a course is approved, and then we'll also talk about what does it mean when a template's ratified, how we do that, and what happens from that point once a template's ratified and how it becomes a transfer guide. So that brings me toward the end of the presentation, and this has just basically been in the introduction to the committee. But the next thing we're going to need to work on, like I said, is to nominate and elect the chair and the vice chair, hopefully in the next few weeks. I'm going to try to begin to plan some more training in the summer and the fall for approval of courses, discipline-specific guidelines, templates, transfer guides, etc. Maybe set up a face-to-face meeting in the fall. And then, as always, because you're the experts in the area, we can always discuss and address any other topics related to transfer situations or issues that are popping up within your discipline areas. The work you're going to do on this committee is very much important to our state and to the students in our state. And through this process, we're trying to keep everyone as much on the same page as possible. The big thing is we're providing thousands of transfer students with accurate transfer information, so we want to make sure we keep that up to date. Another thing that working on this committee will do is hopefully bring our faculty and staff from both the 2- and 4-year institutions together to work on making sure we're telling students what they need to do so that they can move freely in our state and get their degrees and obtain those degrees and move forward and become productive members of our society. As I mentioned earlier, we do provide this information to our institutions to recruit. It makes it easy for students to transition from one institution to another. It also encourages the completion of both the associate and the BS/BA degrees within our state. Encourages people to stay in our state, not leave and go somewhere else for their degrees. Your work is an important part of the overall process, the larger process, so you're an important piece of that. It gives you, the faculty who teach these courses, a say in the transfer process. And probably the most important thing it does, or this work does, is it prevents the loss of credit time and money for our students and taxpayers and their parents. So that's a kind of important role you have. Because this is not live, I can't take any questions or comments live here, but if you'd like to contact me after you've watched this and you have continuing some other questions or something that you don't understand, feel free to contact me either by phone, 334-670-3797, or you can go to our web address. It's either gettheguide.net or stars.troy.edu, and click on contact, and you can email us, and we'll be glad to answer your questions. So with that being said, I want to say thank you for letting me take some time to go through this presentation. I'm about at 28 minutes, so it's taken me about 30 minutes. I hope it's been helpful. I hope you've learned something. We're just getting started, so there's more work to do and more things to cover. So please call me. My name is Keith Sessions. Again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to learn more about the AGSC, to learn more about STARS, and to learn more about your role serving on the Area 1, Area 2 Academic Committee. So thank you, and I hope you have a great day.